Now the next thing we should do is take a look at the other 4 view orientations that MicroStation provides. And to do that, we need to go to the View Rotation tool, and let's have a look at the Tool Settings window. The default is Dynamic for Rotate View, and this is of course quite different from the 2D where you only have 2 possibilities, which was 2 points or unrotated. And if you click on the method and drop it down, you'll see we have a good selection of different views. Now right now, of course, we have the isometric, the right, the front, and the top views in place. So let's pick the bottom orientation. And since we were in view 1, this is now turned into the bottom orientation. And you can see that by the triads location. Let's try again with the back. That's turned the step block around. So now we're looking from the back of the step block. Let's try the left orientation. This is now looking in this direction at the step block. And the last one to look at is the right isometric. Click on the rotate view. This time I'm going to select right isometric. You'll see the step block has rotated 180 degrees and presented in this direction. So that technically is a right isometric as far as MicroStation is concerned. Now it's hard to go wrong with these views because you are told in the heading of the view which one you're looking at. So you won't get lost in that regard. So try those for yourself. See if you can change the orientation of each of the 4 views to different ones from what you have now. And then we'll move on to actual dynamic rotation. I'm going to maximize my isometric. So I'm just looking in the isometric view and going to go back to the dynamic rotation, and I'm leaving it on dynamic. So when we bring the cursor into the drawing, you'll see that the cursor has changed from the red cursor, and this is the rotate cursor. Notice too that there is a cross in the center of the screen at the moment. If I now left click and hold, and I drag the mouse, then you rotate the elements dynamically. Be a little careful with this, you can quite easily lose orientation. But we're rotating the elements about the center of the screen. Now this is fine, but it might not be what you want exactly. So when you see the dynamic cursor and the cross, you can actually pick up the cross and move it wherever you wish. So if I move the cross to that location there, and then drag, notice now that I'm dynamically rotating about that selection point, which is often more in line with what you need. So practice that too. Right click to stop the rotation. But as soon as I select rotation again, dynamic, the cross will remain in the previous position unless you have closed MicroStation and restarted. Then you'll be starting from the center of the view again. But while a session is running, it will remain in place, as you see here. So please practice that, because you will be using this an awful lot as we proceed through the videos. Now, since we will be using it a lot, what I do is put this particular command on a function key. Rather than have to go across and select it from the view tools, I simply press an F key. And to show you what I mean, go to Workspace and Function Keys. And here we see the function key assignments at the moment. And I'm using F4 as my function key for automatic rotation. If you want to do the same thing, be my guest. Or you can use one of the 3 keyboard options in conjunction with an F key. So you could click Control and F4, which would require you to press Control and F4 to invoke the dynamic view. I prefer not to, because the previous F4 action was not one that I use a lot, so I'm quite happy replacing it with this particular action. And the exact information to enter is rotate view, then from cursor, and from cursor is all one word, as you see on the screen. When you've done that, simply say OK, and then I'm going to right-click to get out of that, and all I do now is press the F4 key, and instantly I'm back with the system and rotating. So it is a little quicker than actually going across and selecting and so on. Let's have a look at the other option, which is the spherical method of dynamics. Don't worry about the 2 slide bars at the moment. They simply set the size of the sphere we will be working with and its opaqueness. I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to select that corner. Instantly I see a sphere. And now when I click and I drag, I see an arrow on the surface of the sphere, which is giving me the direction of my dynamic rotation. Now, if you like this, use it. I find it a little more difficult to use than the cube, and I much prefer the cube orientation myself. So I would strongly suggest using the cube. Now, of course, my dynamic view is a little odd. So I'm going to go back to this and select isometric. And I'm back as an isometric. Now, in each of these cases, you almost always have to click in a view to start the actual rotation, unless you have a view active. Just keep in mind, please, that when you do rotate a view, you're rotating the view, not the elements. The elements are still in their position relative to the design cube. You're merely rotating the view around those elements. So practice, this is a very important thing. And then when you're done, go back to tiling all of the views and replace whatever view orientations you have back to the 4 standard views before you continue with the next video.